This appears to be the day of reckoning for the Houston Astros. News coming out now. According to sources, the Major League Baseball's penalties for the Astros include 1-year suspensions for GM Jeff Luhnow and manager A.J. Hinch, and a fine of $5 million.
Well, the penalties are severe. There's no question about that. 1-year suspensions for the general manager and the manager. That's never happened in this sport. $5 million fine is the maximum allowed by Major League Baseball. There's also discipline for Brandon Taubman, the former assistant GM.
I have higher standards for the city and the franchise, and I'm going above and beyond MLB's penalty. Today, I have made the decision to dismiss A.J. Hinch and Jeff Luhnow.
The responsibility as overseers of this game belongs to the front office people and the in-uniform staff. That's why they are paying the price. This is a historic day for baseball because these penalties are unprecedented. Now everybody knows what the rules are going forward.
For more than a decade, there has been widespread illegal use of anabolic steroids and other performance-enhancing substances by players in Major League Baseball in violation of federal law.
I love him. That's my dog. We go way back.
The evidence we uncovered indicates that this has not been an isolated problem involving just a few players or a few clubs. Many players were involved. Each of the 30 clubs has had players who have been involved with such substances at some time in their careers. There have been many estimates of use, impossible to verify. However, it is a fact that between 5 and 7% of the Major League players who participated in anonymous survey testing in 2003 tested positive. Those figures almost certainly understated the actual level of use, since players knew they would be tested at some time during the year. The use of human growth hormone was not detectable in the tests that were conducted, and as many experts have noted, a negative test does not necessarily mean that a player has not taken such substances.
In his book, Romo, My Life on the Edge, Romanowski writes about a playoff game against the Giants, where he found himself buried with running back Dave Meggett.
I'm pissed, and I'm down there just trying to rip that ball out of his hands. And all I could get was a finger. And at that time, I thought it was his, but just whatever it was, I just snapped it. And I could hear a scream at the bottom of the pile.
You broke his finger and you thought to yourself, good, he's not going to be so effective anymore.
At that time, yes.
Man, that's cold.
That's awful.
If this extraordinary violence sounds like roid rage, steroid abuse, Romanowski says it's not. He told us he used steroids only in the end from 2001 to 2003. He got them, he says, from Victor Conti, head of the infamous sports supplement lab called Balco. Romanowski says Conti gave him bullet-sized vials of a foul-tasting gold liquid. It was a new anabolic steroid the NFL wasn't testing for, known as THG, what Conti called the clear.
He called it a clear substance, possibly a pro-hormone, a designer steroid. He really didn't know exactly what it was. He just thought maybe this could help, and it wasn't something that they could test for.
While Romanowski admits to THG, Conti was pushing other banned performance drugs, so we asked if there was something else Romanowski hadn't admitted. Did you take human growth hormone from Victor Conti as well?
I took it a brief period of time, and I didn't receive any great benefits. Definitely didn't receive what I got out of THG or what I thought I was getting out of THG.
You wrote, as soon as I found out something could be tested for, I stopped taking it.
Yeah.
I mean, what you're saying here is you did everything you could get away with.
You know, I compromised my morality to get ahead, to play another year, to play 2 more years, to win another Super Bowl.
The Balco controversy ran for 2 years. What, for you, was the most difficult part of it?
The embarrassment to my family and friends, to teammates, team owners in the league. That hurt. And ultimately, I had a little boy that looks up to his dad. And he said, "Dad, do you do drugs?" That would hurt me more than anything.
He'd heard that at school.
Yeah. And I gave him the best answer I knew how to give him at the time. I said, "Dalton, Daddy did a lot of things to deal with the pain of the game."
He said he first tried cocaine at a party during his rookie year in 1981, and by his 3rd season, he had moved up to crack.
You write, "I'd go through an ounce a day. There were times I'd be standing in the huddle, and instead of thinking what defense we were playing, I'd be thinking about smoking crack after the game."
Well, you gotta understand though, it didn't affect my play.
To beat NFL drug tests, Taylor told us his teammates would give him their urine. But he finally failed a test when the urine he'd been given turned out to be dirty. Then he failed a second drug test and was suspended for 4 games in 1988. A 3rd strike would have ended his career. So he gave up the drug for 5 years. But as he approached retirement, he'd looked forward, he said, to going back to cocaine.
"I saw coke as the only bright spot in my future," you're right.
Yeah.
Lawrence, you're a legend.
I know.
You got a ton of money. Coke is the only bright spot in your future?
Because that's how powerful the drug is.
And Taylor was so powerless to resist it that the day after his final game in 1994, he was back smoking crack. Later that year, he smoked it the day the Giants retired his number. For 2 years, he says, he chased cocaine the way he'd chased quarterbacks.
Alex, this weekend, Sports Illustrated reported that in 2003, you tested positive for testosterone and an anabolic steroid known as primobolan. What's the truth?
When I arrived in Texas in 2001, I felt an enormous amount of pressure. I felt like I had all the weight of the world on top of me, and I needed to perform at a high level every day. Back then, it was a different culture. It was very loose. I was young. I was stupid. I was naive. And I wanted to prove to everyone that, I was worth, and being one of the greatest players of all time. And I did take a banned substance. And, for that, I'm very sorry and deeply regretful. And although it was a culture back then, and Major League Baseball overall was very I just feel that I'm just sorry. I'm sorry for that time. I'm sorry to my fans. I'm sorry for my fans in Texas. It wasn't until then that I ever thought about substance of any kind. And since then, I've proved to myself and to everyone that I don't need any of that.
So you're saying that the time period was 2001, 2, and 3?
That's pretty accurate, yes.
And what kind of substances were you taking?
Peter, that's the thing. I mean, again, it was such a loosey-goosey era that's I'm guilty for a lot of things. I'm guilty for being negligent, naive, not asking all the right questions. And to be quite honest, I don't know exactly what substance I was guilty of using.
Texans fans, well, they did not see it coming. Brian Cushing getting slapped with a 10-game suspension for violating the league's policy on performance-enhancing drugs.
And this isn't the first time he's gotten in trouble. Jason Bristow joins us now with the story. Jason?
Yes, you are right. This is not the first time for Brian Cushing, but I can tell you this. It's very interesting to take a look back at the first time he was in trouble with the league. Back in 2010, he was suspended 4 games for reportedly testing positive for HCG. It's a fertility drug, which is often taken by steroid users to help restart their own testosterone production. Now, Cushing claimed he had a medical condition called overtrained athlete syndrome, which he says triggered that positive test. Now, we don't know what Brian Cushing tested positive for this time, but it is worth noting he appealed that first suspension, but not this one. Len, Mia?
How this plays out and what it affects the defense. All right, thank you, Jason.
How dare you!
A great faith was shattered in America by the Black Sox scandal. America might well have forsaken baseball if it hadn't been for the incredible talent of one George Herman Ruth. A talent so great, America went back to the ball fields to see for itself. The mighty Babe Ruth, the Sultan of SWAT, reassured America that what it was seeing was in fact true. Baseball was once more on the level. In fact, it was not. In 1926, Hall of Famer Ty Cobb and his buddy Tris Speaker were accused of a fix. The ferocious Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis chose to ignore it. Baseball had just been rehabilitated in the eyes of America. Babe Ruth was the new hero. There wasn't room for another scandal.
Ty Cobb blackmailed Landis because Landis knew that if Cobb and Speaker were convicted of gambling, that reflected badly on Landis. That would show that he had not come in and cleaned up the game, which in fact he had not.
Managers knew, trainers knew, owners knew. How can you not know?
Whatever you believe Jose Canseco to be, drugged up cheater, whistleblower, or fraud, there's no denying this about the supernatural slugger. The man himself is an open book.
We had a little case. We carry it on the plane with us, and maybe a testosterone bottle will fall out in the plane, and we just pick it off the ground. Hey, whose is it? I mean, it was ridiculous. It was so obvious.
These simple facts surrounding Canseco's visit to Four Winds Field last Sunday highlight his strange place in the game today. He was invited to the park, but not into the players' clubhouse. We're still curious about the admitted PED user, but don't want to get too close.
It was used PEDs at will, and I think the minor league level was following along with that. I think the college level was following along, and it was trickling down to high school level.
After years as a baseball pariah, ostracized from the game he still loves, you can forget just how talented Canseco was.
Canseco drives one to left.
American League Rookie of the Year in 1986, the MVP in '88 when he became the first player in history to hit 40 home runs and steal 40 bases in the same season.
Players want to know, oh, Jose, how come you're so fast? So much power. Well, I worked hard, and I did these weightlifting programs, and I incorporated these chemicals. And it wasn't a hidden thing. It was something we talked about as players. Like, we're having a conversation now. I wanted you to become better. And if I could help you, I would.
At one point, Canseco seemed like a lock for the Hall of Fame.
I have a better chance of, being abducted by aliens than being inducted to the Hall of Fame.
Nevertheless, he does believe the other big names from the steroid era should have their day in Cooperstown.
They say you're using PEDs and you're cheating. But if the pitcher's using PEDs, if the infielder's using PEDs, if the outfielder's using PEDs, if you're using PEDs, it's an even playing field. Why are you cheating?
This is just like the steroids in my mind.
Right.
It is just like that because
The
you
cheaters will always be ahead of those trying to catch them.
Cheaters will always be ahead, but more importantly, there's always going to be some level of benefit. Like, we can talk about all these guys that get popped for steroids, and you're going to keep them out of the hall and all that stuff. That matters to an extent, like Barry Bonds.
To an extent.
But for a lot of these guys, you still hit that big contract in large part because of the steroids you were doing. So there's the win. Like, just like you don't give back a championship as an organization, you don't get back all that money.
No.
Like, you get all that money, and so to some extent, the juice is always going to be worth the squeeze. It's going to be on Major League Baseball to make sure they have a better way to monitor this going forward and just force them to keep evolving because they're going to keep cheating.
Bouncing ball up the middle. A run's going to score. Anderson to throw to first. And Tyler break home runs along. Gonzalez to third gives Sosa his 25th RBI on a broken back. The Cubs lead by 1 here in the first inning.
Well, this isn't
They're
good.
looking for a few more pieces of the lumber.
No, they're looking to see what's in the bat. And they want to see if what's in the bat is really the bat or if there's anything in there that shouldn't be in there. Chip, the only time I've seen something in there is if the bat is corked. Now, as far as we know, they have just the handle of the bat. They don't have the barrel of the bat. And Grzelcyk is going back to third. And Gonzalez is going back to second. And I believe there's going to be 2 outs.
So still be a ground ball out, 4-3 for Sosa.
I think the put out usually is given to the closest man to the play. In that case, it would be the catcher. 2 unassisted. That's how they work with interference. And that's what they were looking at. Now, Chip, I'm thinking from here, and of course we're a long way away. That probably is just rotten wood.
Yeah, we hope so.
In 2007, the NBA was rocked to its core when the news hit that referee Tim Donaghy had admitted that he had illegally bet on games he himself had officiated. For his crimes, Donaghy would spend 15 months in federal prison. Basketball is especially vulnerable to fixing in a way that other sports aren't. For referees, it's simple. To benefit one team, all they have to do is call fouls on the other team. And because fouls are so common in the game and so subjective and discretionary, fixing can be hard to detect.
I'm garbage. Yeah, I suck.
Did you hear about Hector Lombard?
Yes, another one test positive.
Jesus.
The UFC and MMA in general is a steroid epidemic.
Really?
They've started this like really stringent testing, and everybody's getting popped. They're just getting popped left and right. I mean, it's one of the things that fighters have been saying for a long time, that everyone's on steroids, that, a huge percentage, give them number, 50, 60, whatever the fuck it is, that are on steroids.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Rafael Palmero, and I am a professional baseball player. I'll be brief in my remarks today. Let me start by telling you this. I have never used steroids, period. I do not know how to say it any more clearly than that. Never.
Palmero admitted taking a steroid, but claimed he didn't do it on purpose.
I am here to make it very clear that I have never intentionally used steroids. Never, ever, period.
To be clear,
I have never taken illegal performance-enhancing drugs. I have never injected myself or had anyone inject me with anything. I've not broken the laws of the United States or the laws of the Dominican Republic. I have been tested as recently as 2004, and I am clean.
How did you get to that point where that was what you were using to prepare yourself to play?
Well, sir, I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm here to talk about the positive and not the negative about this issue.
Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, waving wood and magic wands, taking greenies, H.G. and Anderstein, Dion. Mark McGuire, where are you? But not Yankees number 2. Pudge Rodriguez, Jason, John B. Rapid, Palmero.
What a bunch of cheating liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying.
Red Boone, launching bombs and losing weight and being gone. Sealing, what's your excuse? All your plays were playing juice. All this power suddenly, look, a new home run king. Henry Aaron, Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, goodbye.
What a bunch of cheating liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of cheating liars. Owners kinda liked it, so they didn't fight it.
Victor Conte, Merriman, Landis and Marianne, Gary Schiffel, Caminetti, Jason Grimley's box. Gatlin, Johnson, Montgomery busted, and Lance Armstrong gets lumped in with all those cheating jocks. Canseco, so it seems, shot up his entire team, then wrote about it in a book. All the drugs his teammates took. Congress, it won't rest, putting baseball to the test. All runs are less, it's still a mess, and Bonds is gonna be the best.
What a bunch of cheating liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of cheating liars. Owners kinda liked it, so they didn't fight it.
Look at that, way back, a home run with the bags back. But don't say it's a lie if the hitter's your guy. It's clear once and for all, drugs are plaguing baseball and NFL. You get hot, we know about your dirty side. The Panthers' offensive line shot up and thought it'd be fine. No one learned long ago that Mandridge was a no-show. Tagliabue, did you see the problem you were leaving? Please go down, soldier on, make sure that the drugs are gone.
What a bunch of cheating liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of cheating liars. Owners kinda liked it, so they didn't fight it.
Pitchers get no free pass, they stick needles in their ass. Roger Clemens, how do you still throw so fast? Even Brady Anderson hit 50 goddamn home runs. Duffy Rose, Jack Free, what is it that you can't see? Juice balls, fences in, Latin invasion. 61 blown away, what else do I have to say?
What a bunch of cheating liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of cheating liars. Owners kinda liked it, so they didn't fight it.
Yes, it's true, we understand it wasn't cheating back then against the law. That is all, it's sacrilege to baseball. But who cares when you rake with all the dough you stand to make? Someone please take a stand, what is that on Kenny's hand? Oh, he said with a nudge, that was just a harmless smudge. I mean, really, what's it matter? It won't help me get this batter. But that only underscores what's more important than the score. Integrity, it is no more, the fans can't take it anymore.
What a bunch of cheating liars. Yeah. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of fucking liars. Owners kinda liked it, so they didn't fight it. What a bunch of fucking liars. Since the balls were flying, they've been juiced and lying. What a bunch of fucking liars.